This is the truth about Warzone bot lobbies. Have you ever turned on a YouTube video and thought to yourself, why don't their opponents shoot back? Well, I've had those same thoughts, and after months of frustration, I found 5 ways that people get easy lobbies. And in this video, I'll be answering how each method works, can you tell if someone is using them, and explain why getting bot lobbies is actually part of a much bigger problem. So starting off with the first bot lobby method. Now, people have been getting accused of using it since Verdansk, and the idea behind the method is quite simple. You confuse the matchmaking algorithm by giving the game a fake location for your house. When you connect to a match in Warzone, the game looks at many data points to decide what match to put you in. It looks at your connection to the server, the skill of you and your party, and many more things. But one of the most critical factors is the time to match. They don't want the queue time to take a long time because people would get bored and hop off the game. So for this first method, people download a third-party app that routes just your matchmaking data over a global virtual private network of servers. This is commonly called a VPN. And according to one of these third-party apps websites, this confuses the skill-based matchmaking system because the game assumes you'll have a high ping and it throws you into the closest lobby possible as fast as possible. Now, this all sounds great in theory, but does it work? Well, I used a VPN that someone recommended to me called SBMM Off. I have no affiliation with this program, and this is not advertising for them. I just want you to know exactly what I did, and I want everyone to see just how easy it is to manipulate matchmaking in Warzone. Now, what I did was I found a server where the local time was in the morning from like 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., and I connected to that server under the strict setting. This strict setting apparently means that it forces the game to look for a lobby with players that only have open or moderate NAT types. I'm not sure how much of a difference this makes, but this is what was recommended to me. Now, here's where things get tricky. Call of Duty closed down their API to the public, which is just a fancy way to say that websites like COD Tracker can no longer track stats and lobby strength for people who want to look it up. Now, this was definitely a calculated move by Activision because they don't want people to know how the matchmaking algorithm works, and they want people to be kept in the dark. But it makes testing bot lobbies almost impossible because we can't see the stats of the other players. So I decided for this video that if I could drop 40 or more kills playing solo quads, which I've never done under normal matchmaking, it would tell me that this method works. And lo and behold, after just a few hours of testing, I got an insane bot lobby. Let's go for the 40. Holy. Now, everyone's definition of a bot lobby is different, and it definitely depends on your own skill level, but some of the factors that stick out to me are this. First, you can stand out in the open and shoot at people for free without getting shot in the back, like I'm doing here. Second is that many players don't have good awareness and apparently don't hear footstep audio at all, like this guy. And finally, a lot of players just seem to panic when you shoot at them, and they don't really shoot back. Now, there's definitely other hints that you're in a bot lobby, but basically you can just run around out in the open all day and hardly get shot at. Now, like I said, I have never had a 40 kill game in normal matchmaking, and transparently, I've been struggling for weeks in solo quads just to get 20 kills. So dropping a game like this just a few hours after turning the VPN on tells me that this method probably works, even though I can't see the data for the lobby strength. Now, one thing I will say is that after testing for several hours, I definitely didn't get bot lobbies every time. I actually got some sweaty matches too. I would just say that the variety of matches that I got was much higher and more random than normal. And what's crazy about the VPN method is it's pretty much undetectable if you're doing it. The only thing that changes is your geolocation in the game. So for instance, if I connect to the Philippines, my location in the game changes to that, but my ping stays the same. So in order to know if someone was doing this, you'd have to see their geolocation or their task manager to see if they're running a VPN program. So given that it's pretty easy to set this VPN up and fairly undetectable, I would imagine that a lot of people are doing it, which the host of the biggest Warzone podcast seems to agree with.
Like from everything that I've heard from everybody, chat, obviously we're in the scene, we hear like 95% of the rebirth community VPNs. Let's just be honest, right?
Now, this next bot lobby method might be even better because I smashed my 40 kill goal in this gameplay here while using it. Now, if you remember in the last method, I sent my matchmaking data far away to a VPN server to confuse the matchmaking algorithm, and the game connected me to a server near my house, which kept my ping low. Well, for this new method, I don't connect to a server near my house. I force the game to connect me to a server in a location that I choose. This is called geofencing. And the idea behind this is that not only are you sending your matchmaking data to a VPN VPN server across the world, but you're also restricting the game servers that you can connect to, so you're breaking the matchmaking algorithm even more. Now there's a few ways to do this. Some routers like the NetDuma allow you to go into the settings and draw shapes on a map, and your router won't let the game connect you to a server that is outside of the location that you draw. But another way to do this is to just use a third-party app, and that's what I did for my tests. I used SBMMoff once again, and I connected to a VPN server where it was early in the morning, and then I set up a geofence to the west coast. Now I live closer to the east coast, and I normally connect to these servers here, but with the geofence, I forced the game to connect me to the west coast servers. If you remember from the last gameplay, my ping in that game was in the 30s, which is pretty normal for me, but when I geofenced to the west coast servers in this game, I was getting 60 or about double. Now, I was actually a bit surprised that it wasn't even higher, and I'm not sure the exact location of the server that I connected to, but my ping is usually not this high. Now, like I mentioned before, it's impossible to know the lobby strength that we get nowadays because the data isn't available, but I would say that using a VPN and geofence gave me similar type games to just using a VPN. I got some sweaty lobbies, and I got what seemed like some easier lobbies. And after a couple of hours of using this method, I got very close to dropping 50 kills in solo quads. Holy, man.
Nicely done.
Holy, new PR with the VPN geofence. Let's go. So I would have to say that this method also works because it would have to be an insane coincidence to get this many kills when I've never dropped more than 40 kills in normal matchmaking. And just like the last method, it's not really possible to tell if someone is doing this unless you see their geolocation or if you notice that their ping is always really high. But even then, that doesn't really tell you anything because sometimes the game does connect you to servers that are far away. Now, one major downside to using the geofence was that the queue times between games took significantly longer. Sometimes the queue time was more than 5 minutes and I could hardly find a match, but then other times it was more normal. Now, I don't know exactly what causes that. It could be the time of day that I was playing and where I was geofencing, but I'm not exactly sure. Okay, the next bot lobby method is one that's been covered quite a bit on YouTube, and I actually made a video about this a few months ago, so I'll go through it quickly. But basically, ever since Warzone added map rotations to Resurgence, if you complete a match and then stay in the game until the very end, the game puts you back on the map that you just played, even if a new map is up on the rotation. And what this means is you tend to play a lot of people that are AFK, and in general, it seems like the skill level of these players is much lower. Now, quads wasn't available for my tests, so I had to play trios, but I tested this a few times, and it definitely seemed like staying in the lobby gave me significantly easier matches every time. Now, I didn't drop 40 kills using this method, but trios plays different from quads. It's much easier to accidentally wipe a team since there's only 3 players, so the pacing was something that I really wasn't used to. It was also pretty time consuming to have to wait each time for a new game, so after getting this 34 kill win and seeing that the players in these lobbies were oftentimes AFK, and a lot of them weren't really aware of what was going on, I would say that this method works too. And just for reference, the game right before this one, which was under normal matchmaking conditions, I was only able to get 10 kills and got 7th place. Now I want to get to the 4th bot lobby method, but before I do that, I have to discuss the big problem that I mentioned earlier, and that's hidden matchmaking algorithms. When you queue into a game of Warzone, you have no idea how sweaty the lobby is and who you're playing against, because Activision doesn't want you to know how their matchmaking works. And this creates a feeling of unpredictability because your in-game performance varies greatly from day to day. Some days you're frying, and other days you're absolutely in the blender. But it also creates a lot of frustration because you don't know how your skill is being evaluated, so you can't tell if you're improving at the game. And maybe even worse than all of that is when games use hidden matchmaking systems, it becomes easier for people to abuse them without anyone knowing. Now, there are many schools of thought on how matchmaking in Warzone should work and whether or not there should be skill-based matchmaking in pubs. And I don't really have the answer for the perfect system, but what I think we should all agree on is that we need more transparency. Back when Warzone had a publicly available API, you could see the lobbies that you were getting put into, and you could track your performance to see if you were getting better. You could also check your favorite streamers and see what lobbies they were getting, so you could compare your performance to them. Now, this did lead to a lot of witch hunts and people accusing others of VPNing and getting easier lobbies, but that happens nowadays without these websites anyways. The point is, you could at least see the data and make your own decisions. I strongly believe that Warzone should make the API data available again because you should be able to look up and see who you're playing against in the game. Now, at the end of the day, there are always going to be people who try to get easier lobbies, whether they're a content creator looking to get more views, or someone who just got home from their job and wants to relax without sweating. And what I hope you see from this video is that public matches are very easy to manipulate in Warzone, and it's very difficult to know if someone is doing it. So I just don't think that you can really take pubs seriously in Warzone. And in all reality, that's how gaming should be anyways. Pubs for fun and ranked for competitive. At least that's what I believe. And with that said, let's get on to the fourth bot lobby method. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I would guess that this method is the most popular right now because out of the other ones that I tested, this one felt like it gave easier lobbies the most consistently. So one of the factors that Warzone looks at when you're queuing in for a match is the skill level of your party. The higher the overall skill of you and your friends, the more sweaty lobbies you get. So in theory, if you play with really bad players, you can get easier matches. And that's where this fourth bot lobby method comes in. First, you have to have a second PC or a console, and then you create a brand new account to use on this device. Next, you join a few matches with this account, and you don't get any kills, and you try to die as much as possible to give this account really bad stats. And then once you've done this once or twice, you use this bot account to search for a match, and while you're searching, you join with your main account. And theoretically, you should get easier lobbies because the stats of this bot account will decrease the overall skill-based matchmaking. And then once you're in the lobby, you can just have the bot account leave the game, and now you just have your main account and you can get your gameplay. Now, the theory behind this is pretty simple, and people call this the 2-box method, but it was actually more complicated, and this didn't work for me at first. I wasn't sure how bad this bot account needed to be for the 2-box method to work, so I first used a second account that I've had for quite a while for filming YouTube videos, and I quickly found out that these stats weren't low enough to get me into the bot lobbies. I had actually forgotten that I had used this account to play a little bit of multiplayer, so I think the stats were too high. So what I did was I created a third account, and then I played 1 or 2 games of Resurgence, and I made sure not to get any kills, and then I tried to die as much as possible. Now, I would show you the stats for this account, but you actually have to be a level 10 to be able to see them, so I'm actually not sure what they are. But once I started using this brand new account with the second account and then my main account, I started getting a lot of bot lobbies, and the difference was night and day. I definitely think that if I did this consistently, I could get 50 kills or maybe even a 60 bomb with the right lobby. Because for this test, I only played using this 2-box method for a morning of games, and I was able to get more than 40 kills, which was the benchmark for my test. New PR, let's go. One thing that I think is important to know is that even when you get bot lobbies, you still have to be pretty good at the game to get 40s and 50s and higher on Rebirth. You basically have to fly around the map at full speed and put yourself in really bad situation to get that many kills. So to get the types of high kill games that you typically see on YouTube, you really need 3 things. First, you need to have a lot of skill. Second, you need to get a bot lobby. And third, you do have to have a little bit of luck. There's plenty of players out there that have a lot of skill, but they don't get many bot lobbies, so they'll never put up numbers like the people that you see on YouTube using these methods. But on the flip side, there's also a lot of people who think they have a lot of skill, and if you put them in these same lobbies, they're probably only going to get 15 or 20 kills. Now, like the other methods, I would say that this one is also pretty easy to hide. For instance, if you're streaming, you can just hide your screen in between matches, or you can pre-record yourself queuing into a normal match and then just play this to trick people. So once again, it's pretty much impossible to know if someone is doing this without the lobby stats. Okay, moving on to bot lobby method number 5. Now, I originally didn't want to talk about this method because it's actually banned by Activision, but I still see a lot of people on social media talking about it, so here it goes. There's a third-party app that you can get through a private Discord server where it shows you the lobby stats for your game. So basically, you can do what's called lobby surfing, where you join a game, check the stats, and then you leave if the match is too sweaty. And when you do this enough times, you do eventually get easier lobbies because Warzone doesn't strictly use skill-based matchmaking. They use engagement-optimized matchmaking, which means even the sweatiest players get bot lobbies every once in a while. But just to be clear, I've never used this app or downloaded it, but there are some YouTube videos out there that do show what it can do, so I am aware of it, but I've never used it. Now, I do think that people should know the stats of their lobbies, but this app is bannable because it reads the memory of the game to get this data, so I would highly recommend that you don't download it or use it because it's just not worth it. But even when you get a bot lobby, you have to have the correct controller sensitivity to have good aim so that you can get a lot of kills. And you can check out what controller sensitivity I recommend by going to this video right here.